There is a kind of loneliness that doesn't look like isolation. You're not alone. You still have people around you. You still speak, work, function, move through your days and your life. But something doesn't land anymore. Conversations end and you feel untouched. Laughter happens and you feel slightly outside of it. Time with people leaves you tired instead of nourished. Nothing dramatic is wrong, and that's what makes it so hard to name. You don't feel rejected. You don't feel abandoned. You feel unmet. And most men have never been taught what to do with that feeling. You start noticing it in familiar places. A group conversation turns towards complaint, gossip, or performance. And something deep inside of you disengages. Not in judgment or superiority. Your body simply doesn't lean forward anymore. Someone starts recounting chaos, conflict, emotional intensity, the kind of story that used to create closeness. And now, instead of feeling connected, you're feeling drained. You listen, you nod, but inside you feel empty. The bonding currency that once worked no longer buys connection. And you don't know what replaces it yet. Most men misinterpret this stage immediately. They tell themselves, maybe it's me becoming cold. Maybe I am losing my edge. Maybe I am disconnecting from people. So they try to correct themselves. They reinsert intensity. They joke harder, overshare. They bring up old wounds to recreate depth and bonding. And afterwards, they feel worse. Not because the people were wrong, but because the man abandoned his present state to feel included in the group. That self-abandonment registers instantly, and that destroys men. Pay attention to the aftertaste. You leave the interaction and feel slightly hollow. Not angry, not sad, just off. You replay the moment over and over and you realize you participated in something you no longer resonate with. Not because you're better than it, above it, it's all below you. Because you have already metabolized it. It's been fully digested. And those kind of experiences don't nourish you twice. Integration removes certain bonding mechanisms. Chaos, trauma sharing, collapse stories, mutual dysregulations, intensity without direction. When those leave, fewer people can meet you where you are. Again, not because they are inferior. Something has changed. This creates grief, not loud grief, quiet grief. The grief of realizing that many connections were built on shared instability. And once instability is gone, the structure of the relationship, the dynamic just dissolves. Now you notice invitations change. Subtly. You're included less in certain spaces. Conversations stay surface level. People sense distance but don't know why. You haven't pulled away. You haven't become unkind, nasty, cruel. You've just stopped being useful to chaos. And without that role, some relationships lose their shape. This is where many men regress. Not because they want dysfunction, because they don't know how to stand in the absence of resonance. They mistake loneliness for failure. They go back to old jokes, back to old roles, back to being the stabilizer, the entertainer, the emotional container. And for a moment, connection returns, just like when you have your drug of choice, but at the cost of self-respect. And this always catches up with you after the initial few moments. This loneliness is not pathology. It is not depression. It is not withdrawal. It is not emotional shutdown. It is integration without replacement. Every initiation removes the old tribe before the new one appears. If you rush to fill the gap, you will regress. If you numb it, you will dull your sensitivity. If you perform to escape it, you will fracture. This phase must be endured cleanly, honorably, and nobly. You are in a room with people you've known for years. You listen more than you speak. Not because you are disengaged, because you don't need to fill space anymore. And so the silence stretches, and someone shifts uncomfortably, and a joke is made to break the quiet. And you don't rush to rescue it. And this feels totally exposed, because your presence is no longer propped up by performance. You are simply there. Before this phase and work of integration, noise buffered you. Now, quiet amplifies truth. You feel misalignment immediately. You sense when connection is forced. You notice when you are about to perform instead of be yourself. That clarity is a burden. It means far fewer distractions, far fewer escapes, far fewer places to hide. And this is why many men retreat here. Not because they want chaos, but because they don't yet trust that stillness. This phase is not resolved quickly. Months can pass where you feel socially underfed, malnourished, not starving, just unsatisfied. This is where patience matters. If you try to fix this, you miss its function. The function is not to give you new people immediately. The function is to recalibrate how you relate. Over time, something subtle changes. A conversation slows down instead of speeding up. Someone meets your silence instead of filling it. Depth emerges without intensity. Not many people, but real ones. The loneliness doesn't vanish. It refines. It turns into solitude rather than absence. And solitude is a fertile ground. You learn to be yourself without stimulation, without drama, without collapse. You learn that presence doesn't require performance. That connection doesn't require chaos. That depth doesn't require wounds. This is where a man becomes emotionally self-sufficient and self-regulated. Not closed, not hardened, but no longer hungry. Finally nourished, finally satiated. Integration costs social density. It costs familiarity. It costs easy belonging. But it gives you something so much rarer. The ability to stand alone without becoming isolated. To be with others without dissolving your sacred spine. To be quiet without disappearing. To be present without proving. This is the ground real companionship grows from. Once you can stand in and bear this solitude without hardening, the external world begins to react. People sense the shift. They test. They project. They recalibrate. You don't announce anything. You don't explain. Your presence does the work. And how you respond to that projection is the next initiation.